Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to this video on coping with highly critical people. I am your host, Dr. Dawn-Elise Snipes. Now, I just recently did a video on coping with hateful comments and coping with hate, but this is a little bit different. So I wanted to do a separate video just on highly critical people. Most of us have highly critical people in our life, and they could be close family members, they could be supervisors, they could be friends, whomever they are in our life. As opposed to the person who's intentionally being hateful, a lot of times the people in our lives that are highly critical are often trying to be helpful. So the first thing you want to do after you take a breath, hold it for a few seconds, and exhale so you can get into your purposeful mind, so you can get into your thinking mind. Ask yourself, what is this person's goal in being critical? Just like we did in the hateful with the hateful comments, what is the purpose of this person's behavior? If they are a friend, a family member, if they're not trying to be hateful, a lot of times they're trying to be helpful. They may just be doing it in a less than kind and compassionate way. Do they not know any better? Maybe that's how they were raised. Maybe their significant others were always critical of them, and everything they did, their significant others, their parents, their loved ones were constantly saying, well, that's fine, but you could do this better, or whatever the criticism was. So that may just be what they think is normal and acceptable. The third option is that they may be jealous or insecure and want to bring you down. Most of the time, if it's somebody that you care about, that's in your social circle, that's a part of your social support system, that's not going to be the case. Every once in a while it is, but we're really going to focus on the people who are trying to be helpful and may just not know any better. If they're not intending to be mean, you've got choices. The first option is to accept them as they are and let it go. Recognize that when this person comes over, they have their way of doing things, they have their way of thinking about things, and they are going to assert their opinion, which is often seeming critical of what you are doing or who you are. But accept that that is how they are and love them for who they are. That's an option. You don't have to let them continue to get you upset. You can examine the exceptions. You may feel like, oh my gosh, this person always criticizes everything I do. Okay, that's a cognitive distortion right there. That's an unhelpful thinking pattern, because it's rare that somebody always criticizes everything. So think about the times that you've done something that that person didn't criticize, and that will help you see that there are exceptions. The person's not always trying to poke you and help, quote unquote, help you get better. Focusing on the things that the person appreciates, that the person validates, can help you feel a little bit better. Remember, ultimately, you have to live in your own skin, and part of coping with criticism is taking what is useful and leaving the rest. People are going to have different opinions about how you raise your kids, about how you dress, about how you talk, about everything that you do. People are going to have their own opinions, and some people may be a lot more forthcoming with them, and that's okay. That's who they are. But recognizing that ultimately you have to be okay with you, and ask yourself, if you find yourself getting very upset about this person's criticism, why am I getting upset? Why do I need this person's approval on this particular topic at this particular time? Why do I need their approval? Why is it not enough that I approve of myself? You may realize that you're not approving of yourself either. You may realize that you want to be better in that area, and the person is just kind of highlighting the fact that of one of your recognized weaknesses, and that's kind of like rubbing on an open wound. If you realize that, then you can make a plan and say, okay, they're really right. I don't want to admit it, but they're really right, and I may need to take some action. The next option is to be more assertive and thank them for caring, using an I statement to tell them how it makes you feel. Saying something like, I really appreciate that you care so much about me. However, I feel very attacked, or I feel very sad when you make statements like this. Owning your feelings, pointing out their behaviors very specifically, that can help you open up a dialogue. They may not realize that they're making you feel bad. The other option, or another option, is to thank them for caring and tell them what would be more helpful. I worked with one client who was trying to lose weight, and she had lost a lot of weight. She had already lost like 60 pounds, and she was getting ready to go out to eat with her family, but she knew that when they went out to eat, that her parents would have something negative to say about whatever it was that she ordered. So we talked about what are some options that you have. Again, thank them for their caring. Start out with something nice so that you don't put them on the offensive, and then finish by telling them what would be more helpful. With her, it went something like, I am grateful that you care so much about my health and so much about me, but it would be a lot more helpful if you would focus on all the progress that I've made losing this weight, instead of focusing on what you think I should still be doing differently. That felt comfortable for her. It's important, if you're going to make these assertive statements and you're not normally assertive, to practice these. Rehearse with somebody else. Rehearse in front of the mirror. Figure out what you're going to say in response to criticism if it happens, and regularly replay that in your mind. It's called guided imagery or visualization. See yourself successfully making that statement without getting upset, without getting hostile, but just very matter-of-factly communicating that you love them and you appreciate them. However, something else would be more helpful, or when they do this, it makes you feel bad. Those last two are not easy. Assertiveness can be very challenging, so it's important for you to figure out in every situation what is worth your effort. And sometimes, even if you say to them, I'm grateful that you care, but it would be more helpful if you did something else, they're not going to change because they don't see the problem with their behavior, or they just don't know how to change, or they've been doing it for so long, it's a habit. There's a lot of reasons, and you need to take that into consideration. How much energy is trying to change this person or trying to change this interaction worth to you? Because that person has to be the one that wants to change. You can't change them. You can suggest ways that they can change, but if they don't want to embrace those, then you're stuck back at square one. A lot of times, the first step is starting with you and changing how you react to what they say. Going back to number one, recognizing what is important to you. Is what you're doing, does that feel right for you? If you think it's an area that needs improvement, okay, work on that. It doesn't have to change overnight, but you need your own acceptance. If you're stuck on their opinion, if you can't get past not having their approval 100% of the time for everything, then you need to examine why that is. Nobody is going to approve of everything you do 100% of the time. And once you start to wrap your head around that, it will be a little bit easier. There are a lot of ways to cope with criticism, but these are some practical strategies that you can start implementing right now to help you get through some of these challenging times. And, if you're in a situation where you're around family a lot right now, this might be an especially helpful video to review a couple more times, just to remind yourself that, okay, this person's trying to be helpful. They may not know any better. I have a choice in how I react.